7 months ago, she tremblingly handed him a pregnancy test with 2 lines. Instead of holding her close, he coldly dropped 4 words. Consider other options. 3 weeks later, he signed the divorce papers. And now, in the supermarket, he froze when he saw her in a flowing blue maternity dress. 7 months pregnant. Exactly the time since he abandoned her. He stood there, heart clenched tight. Memories came crashing back. The night she whispered, "Landon, we're having a baby." And the light that vanished from her eyes when he said, "We can't afford a child." Since that night, she had faced it all alone. Every wave of nausea, every ultrasound, every sleepless night. No hand to hold, no one to ask if she was okay. The one man meant to protect her was the one who hurt her most. Now, before his eyes, she was no longer just his ex-wife. She was a mother, still proud, still carrying the child with love, even when its father had walked away. The question for you, if you were Selena, would you give him another chance? Or is a man who once rejected his own child forever undeserving? Share your thoughts below. Perhaps this story touches the very wound in your own heart. Flashback came uninvited, carried by the weight of memory. Landon first saw Selena at the community center. She was leaning over a set of drawings, her smile lighting the room brighter than any lamp. She was young, yet her eyes carried the quiet strength of someone who had survived storms. Selena had grown up in foster care. She had no family name to lean on, but she carried herself with dignity. She gave warmth freely, as if determined to become the mother she had once longed for. Landon was different. He was the son of builders, a man with a dream to make his small company grow into something lasting. He had ambition in his veins and calluses on his hands. That day, while working on a playground project for children, their eyes met. His world slowed. She saw not just another contractor, but a man who wanted to build more than houses. He saw not just another volunteer, but a woman who could heal wounds he had never spoken of. They laughed together over spilled paint. They shared sandwiches under the hot Carolina sun. Within 2 years, they were married. It was simple. It was real. It was love. The first years of marriage were filled with quiet joys. They bought a small house on the edge of Charlotte. The paint on the walls smelled fresh, the floors creaked softly under their steps, and the backyard seemed to wait for children's laughter. Selena loved to walk through the spare room. She would run her hand across the empty walls and whisper dreams of a nursery. A crib by the window, a mobile spinning slowly above a baby's bed, hope written into every corner. Landon worked hard during the day. Selena waited with dinner ready, even if it was simple pasta and a few vegetables. They spent evenings on the porch, listening to cicadas and talking about the future. Money was not abundant, but love covered the lack. They found joy in the little things, fixing a leaky faucet together, painting the kitchen yellow, saving coins in a jar for a weekend trip that never came. Selena smiled easily. Landon felt proud, like he had finally built something that could not fall apart. For 3 years, life felt steady. For 3 years, their hearts believed nothing could shake the ground they stood on. But shadows were already gathering. It started with one client. A promised check never arrived. Landon covered the gap with savings, certain the delay was temporary. But another client failed. Then another. The calls from the bank grew sharper. Interest stacked higher. The mortgage slipped behind. He stared at numbers that no longer added up, no matter how late he stayed at the table. His crew shrank from 6 men to 2. He carried lumber on his own shoulders, refusing to admit the collapse. Sleep grew shallow. Anger quick to rise. Selena's gentle questions met with sharp replies. She stretched her own hours at the community office, bringing in what little she could. She cooked meals that looked fuller than the budget allowed. She never complained. She only placed her hand on his arm and reminded him, "We'll find a way." But Landon's pride burned louder than her comfort. He felt less like a provider and more like a failure. Every missed bill scraped against his soul. Every call from the bank rang like a verdict. Money, once invisible, now sat at their table every night. a silent third presence, a shadow that refused to leave. One evening, Selina came home with trembling hands. She wore her hospital scrubs, her face bright with something fragile. "Landon," she whispered, pulling a small stick from behind her back. Two pink lines stared back at him. For a moment, the air filled with joy. His chest rose. He saw the dream they had whispered about. A child. Their child. Her eyes glowed with hope. She touched her flat stomach as if guarding a secret treasure. But then Landon's gaze fell back to the kitchen table. Papers covered the surface. Unpaid bills, red letters, the mortgage already late. His joy collided with fear. He forced a smile that quickly faltered. Maybe this isn't the right time." Her face froze. "Not the right time? My business is drowning. We're drowning. We can't even pay the mortgage. How can we raise a child now?" The light in her eyes shattered. She pressed her hand harder to her belly, as though protecting the life he had just rejected. Silence spread through the room like smoke. In that moment, two hearts split. One chose hope. The other chose fear, and neither would ever forget it. Days passed in silence. The house felt heavier with each hour unspoken. Selina moved quietly, her eyes avoiding his. Landon buried himself in paperwork, though the numbers refused to change. On the fourth night, her voice broke the stillness. "Do you even want this child?" The question cut deeper than any bill. Landon looked up, tired, hollow. I don't know." The words slipped out before he could catch them. They hung in the air like broken glass. Selina's face crumbled. Tears filled her eyes, but she did not scream. She did not beg. She simply turned away. 2 weeks later, she stood in the doorway with a single suitcase. On the table, she left papers stamped with finality. Divorce. Her hand lingered on her stomach as she walked out the door. One last silent promise to the life within her. Landon watched her leave, unable to move, unable to breathe. His fear had spoken louder than his love. That night, the bed felt like an empty field. Cold, vast, irreversible. Selina had chosen the child. Landon had chosen doubt. And their marriage was over. The months stretched long and merciless. Selina faced them alone. She drove herself to every appointment, sitting in waiting rooms filled with couples holding hands. She rested her own palm against her belly, whispering to the baby that they would be fine, even when her eyes betrayed exhaustion. At night, she turned in a quiet bed, the baby's kicks pressed against her ribs. She smiled through the pain, whispering secrets into the dark. Words meant for a partner who was no longer there. The world outside moved forward. Work, errands, neighbors. Inside, time slowed to the rhythm of a growing heartbeat. Selina decorated the spare room in her apartment with thrift store finds. A small bassinet, a second-hand rocking chair. She painted the walls a soft yellow with her own hands, resting often, talking to her child between strokes of the brush. Every sound in the night reminded her she was alone. But every kick reminded her she was not. 7 months of waiting. 7 months of carrying life and carrying silence. Her strength became the only shield. Her child, the only light. It happened in an instant. Selina stood in the produce aisle, comparing tomatoes, when she felt his eyes. Landon. 7 months gone, yet the sight of him still sent a tremor through her. His face froze, color draining as his gaze dropped to her belly. Her heart pounded. Her arms folded protectively over her stomach before she could stop herself, as if the baby needed guarding from its own father. For a moment, neither moved. The air seemed to close around them. Then Selina's body acted on instinct. She abandoned her cart and turned toward the exit. "Selina!" Landon's voice cracked through the aisle, but she didn't look back. Her steps quickened, fear mixing with anger. The automatic doors opened and the evening air hit her face like a release. She rushed to her old car, keys fumbling in her hands. Behind her, footsteps echoed, but she managed to start the engine. Headlights cut the parking lot. By the time Landon reached the curb, all he saw were taillights vanishing into traffic. The moment had lasted seconds, but it carved itself deep. The past was not finished. Landon stood frozen in the parking lot, breath heavy, hands shaking. The sound of her car fading felt louder than any silence he had ever known. He returned to his apartment that night. Empty walls, empty fridge, empty heart. He sat at the kitchen table, phone in his hand. Selena's number glowed on the screen. He typed a message, deleted it, dialed 3 digits, erased them, over and over until exhaustion set in. What could he say? Sorry I abandoned you when you needed me most? Sorry I asked you to give up the child you now carry alone? Every version tasted like poison. Landon pressed his palms to his face. In the stillness, her voice returned. Do you even want this child? His own answer haunted him. I don't know. Now he knew. He wanted the child. He wanted the woman. But knowledge had come too late. He whispered into the silence as if she could hear, You chose the baby. I chose fear. The words echoed in the empty room, heavy as chains, and regret became his only companion. The next morning, Landon drove without a plan. Through old neighborhoods, past familiar streets, hoping. He remembered the way Selena carried herself, her quiet routines, the places she used to stop after work. He circled them all. No sight of her. Days turned to weeks. His truck became a second home, the steering wheel worn by restless hands. Then, one evening, he saw her car, parked outside a modest apartment complex with peeling paint and rusted rails. His heart jolted. From a distance, he watched. Selena moved carefully, one hand on her belly as she climbed the stairs. Groceries hung heavy in her other arm. She looked tired, thinner than he remembered, but her movements were steady, determined. He didn't approach, not yet. He sat in his truck, hidden by the dusk, watching her disappear behind a faded door marked 2C. The sight was both relief and ache. Relief that she was safe. Ache that she lived this life without him. Every evening after, he returned. Just to see her lights flicker on. Just to know she was still there. Searching had ended. Waiting had begun, and with waiting, a fragile seed of hope. Rain fell hard, streaking across the windshield of Landon's truck. He saw it happen. Selena's car coughed, sputtered, then rolled to a stop near her apartment complex. Steam rose from under the hood. She sat for a moment, gripping the wheel, rain beating down. Finally, she stepped out, one hand on her belly, the other fumbling with the hood latch. Landon was out of his truck before he could think. Umbrella in hand, he crossed the lot. Car trouble? His voice tried for calm. Selena froze. Her eyes met his. She pulled her coat tighter, her other hand sliding instinctively over her stomach. I'll call someone, she said quickly. Let me just look, he offered. Her silence cut sharper than her words, but she stepped aside. One glance told him the truth. Radiator hose, it'll need a tow. Selena's shoulders sagged. Groceries sat in the back seat, heavy bags growing wet. I'll carry them up, Landon said. No, she snapped. I can manage. Selena, it's pouring. You're 7 months pregnant. Please. She hesitated. Rain soaked her hair. Pride and necessity warred in her face. Finally, she nodded. Just the bags. Then you leave. Landon carried the bags up the worn staircase. Selena unlocked the door and held it just wide enough for him to pass through. Inside, he caught a glimpse. A small sofa with a bright pillow, walls painted soft yellow, and in the corner, a bassinet waiting. The sight shattered him. He set the groceries down and turned. Selena. His voice broke. Tears blurred his vision. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I was scared. I let fear speak instead of love, every day since... Stop. Her voice was cold, sharp. Selena. It's too late, she said, eyes hard. You made your choice. You told me you didn't know if you wanted this child. That moment never leaves me. Her hand tightened on the door. Now you see a nursery. Now you feel regret, but regret doesn't undo abandonment. Landon's chest ached. Please, let me leave. The word hit like a stone. He stepped back into the rain, heart torn, carrying the weight of 7 months in silence. Behind him, the door closed. The next morning, Selena's car sat cold in the lot, still broken. Landon couldn't let it go. He called a repair shop he trusted. Fix it. Bill me. By evening, he watched from his truck as a tow arrived. Selena spoke to the driver, confusion clear on her face, her arms folded, lips tight. She didn't like mysteries. 2 days later, she found out. The mechanic told her the bill was already paid. She marched across the lot and found him waiting. You had no right. It wasn't charity, Landon said. It was responsibility. I should have been there all along. She stared at him for a long time. Finally, her shoulders softened just slightly. I'll pay you back. You don't have to. I will. He nodded. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't even trust, but she hadn't pushed him away. For the first time in 7 months, he felt something stir inside him. Hope. Hope pushed him forward. Not recklessly, but carefully. He left a bouquet of sunflowers at her door. No note, only color. Next, a container of fruit salad, her favorite mix of pineapple, grapes, and strawberries. Then a small potted plant. Then a gift card tucked into an envelope. Nothing grand. Nothing loud. Just reminders. I'm thinking of you. For a few days, the offerings disappeared from her doorstep. He told himself she took them inside. Then one evening, his phone rang. Her voice was firm, sharp as glass. Stop. Selena. Stop leaving things at my door. Stop following me. Just stop. He pulled the truck to the side of the road, gripping the wheel. I only wanted to help. I don't need help. I need space. Silence stretched between them, heavy and fragile. Selena, he whispered, I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope. One day. Somehow. Her sigh was long, tired. No more gifts. No more surprises. If you want to help, you'll do it the right way. Later. Not now. The line went dead. Landon stared into the dark. His hands trembled, but not from the cold. From fear, and from hope, refusing to die. That night, the silence of his apartment pressed down like a weight. For months, Landon had carried guilt like a burden strapped to his chest. But now, something else stirred. He knelt by the side of his bed. His knees touched the worn carpet. Hands clasped, head bowed. Words came raw, unpolished. God. I don't deserve her. I don't deserve this child. I ran when I should have stayed. I chose fear. Please, please give me one more chance, not to win her back, just to be a father, to be the man they need. His voice cracked. Tears fell hot on his hands. He had not prayed in years, not since boyhood, not since life had hardened him. But tonight, he prayed with everything he had left. He prayed for forgiveness he might never receive, for strength he had never known. When silence returned, it felt lighter than before, as if someone had heard. He wiped his face and whispered into the dark, I won't run again. It was not a vow made to Selena, not even to God. It was a vow made to himself, and it was the only thing keeping him alive. Monday morning, Landon sat across a polished table, hands folded to hide the tremor. Montclair Development. One of the largest firms in the state. Richard Montclair himself leaned back in his chair. We've reviewed your work. We want you on our new residential project. 18 months of steady contracts. A full crew, steady pay. Landon blinked. I don't understand. How did you— Recommendation, Montclair said. Patricia Chin from the Community Alliance spoke highly of you, but the name came from someone closer. The room tilted. Who? Selena Monroe, Montclair said simply. The words landed heavier than any contract. Selena. After everything, after the divorce, after the silence, she had spoken his name with respect. She had opened the door to save his business. Landon signed with a hand that shook. Not from nerves of the deal, but from the realization. She had given him life again. It wasn't just money, it was dignity. It was survival. It was a chance to be more than regret. But why? Why would she help the man who had abandoned her? That evening, Landon found her outside the apartment complex. Selena sat on a bench near the playground, one hand pressed against her lower back. Children's laughter floated in the distance. He approached slowly. "You recommended me. Why?" She didn't look at him. "Because you're a good contractor." "That can't be all." Her eyes shifted toward the playground. "Because our child deserves a father who can provide. Because stability matters more than my anger." Her words were steady, but her voice shook faintly. "I don't deserve—" "You don't," she cut in. "This wasn't for you. It was for the baby." Her hand rested on her belly, a silent underline. Landon's throat tightened. He had expected anger, maybe rejection, but not this. Her ability to put the child above her hurt. "You gave me my life back," he whispered. "I gave our child a future," she corrected. The difference pierced him. For her, it wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't a bridge back to love. It was sacrifice. For the baby. And it humbled him more than rage ever could. Days later, Landon stood in the grocery aisle again, heart pounding. This time he didn't follow her. He walked straight up, steady but careful. "Selena," he said softly. She turned, wary. "Let me come with you. To a doctor's appointment. Just once. Let me be there, not as a husband, not even as a partner, as the baby's father." Her face hardened. "Why now?" "Because I need to learn. I need to see. I need to stop imagining and start understanding." Silence stretched. The air smelled of citrus and disinfectant. Her eyes searched his face, hunting for weakness. Finally, she sighed. "One appointment. That's all. You sit quietly. No questions, no interruptions." Relief hit him like a wave. He nodded quickly. "Thank you." "This doesn't mean trust," she added. "I know. But it's a start." She walked away, her steps slower than before. Landon stood still, chest burning with a fragile warmth. A chance. Small, brittle, but real. The exam room smelled faintly of antiseptic and hope. Selena lay back, gown loose around her rounded belly. The doctor pressed the Doppler device against her skin. A moment of silence. Then, thump, 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 a heartbeat. Strong, rapid, alive. Landon's breath caught. His chest tightened as tears blurred his vision. The sound was steady, defiant, undeniable. "That's your baby," the doctor said with a smile. Landon pressed a hand to his mouth. He could not speak. He could only listen. Selena turned her head, eyes unreadable. For a moment, her defenses wavered. She watched him weep. The child he once doubted. The life he once feared. It was here, pulsing through the speakers, echoing in his bones. He whispered, almost to himself, "I'm so sorry, little one." Selena's gaze softened, then tightened again. She faced forward, swallowing back whatever emotion had risen. But she had let him hear. She had let him share the sound. And for Landon, it was more than sound. It was salvation. A week later, they sat side by side on yoga mats in a small community room. Other couples filled the space, laughing, holding hands. The instructor guided them through breathing. Inhale, exhale. Partners, hold her hand. Landon's palm slid into Selena's. Warm, familiar. She didn't pull away. They practiced positions. He supported her back, pressed gently where she directed. For a moment they moved in rhythm, as if nothing had ever broken. Whispers from another mat drifted over. "How long have you two been married?" Selena froze. She looked at Landon, then answered flatly, "We're not. Not anymore." Landon's chest tightened. The truth hung heavy in the room. The class went on, breathing, stretching, talking about birth plans. But the echo of her words stayed. When it ended, they packed their things in silence. At the door, Landon murmured, "Thank you for letting me come." She nodded, not meeting his eyes. "It helps to practice." He watched her walk away, hand on her belly, shoulders squared. They had shared touch, breath, rhythm. For an hour, they had looked like a family. But reality was sharper. They were divorced, and the distance between them was still real. The phone rang just after midnight. Landon's chest tightened at the sound of her voice. "Landon, it's me. I'm bleeding. The doctor said I need to go in, now." He was out the door before she finished, keys shaking in his hand. The roads blurred as he drove through dark rain. At Mercy General, he found her pale under the harsh hospital lights. Nurses moved quickly, strapping monitors around her belly. The steady beat of the baby's heart filled the room, but her blood pressure flashed high in red numbers. The doctor spoke calmly, but every word was a blade. "We're watching closely. Early labor is possible. Stress isn't helping." Selina gripped the sheets, eyes closed against the fear. Landon reached her side, but she turned away. Still, he stayed. He sat in the stiff chair, watching every line on the monitor, praying for it to stay steady. The night stretched long. Machines hummed. The baby's heart thumped on. Fear sat heavy in the room. But beneath it, something else stirred. Determination. Landon would not leave. Not tonight. Not ever again. Hours passed. The storm outside faded, but the storm inside her chest remained. Selina lay still, one hand over her belly. Her voice was soft, raw. "I'm scared." Landon leaned closer. "I know." Her eyes opened, glistening in the low light. "But I'm more scared of being abandoned again, of facing this alone." The words pierced deeper than any silence. He gripped the edge of the bed, voice breaking. "I won't disappear. Not again. I was a coward before. I let fear speak louder than love, but never again." Her tears slipped silently across the pillow. "Landon," she whispered, "I don't know if I can believe you." "Then let me prove it," he said. "Not with promises, with presence, with every breath, every step." The monitor beeped steady, her pressure slowly easing. She looked away, but her fingers loosened, not pushing him back. For the first time in months, she had let him hold space beside her fear, and that was enough to keep him there until morning. By morning, her blood pressure calmed. The doctor allowed her to rest at home but warned, "She needs support. No stress, no lifting, no doing it alone." Selina exhaled slowly, staring at her hands. Landon sat beside her, waiting. Finally, she spoke. "1 month. After the baby is born, you can stay. Help with feedings, groceries, doctor visits, but you sleep on the couch. You are not my husband." The words were firm, protective walls, but Landon nodded. "Whatever you need. Couch, floor, it doesn't matter. I'll be there." Her eyes searched his face, looking for cracks, looking for weakness. "All I want is to make sure this child doesn't grow up alone," she said. "Then let me help you," he replied. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't reconciliation. It was survival, a fragile agreement, written not on paper, but in necessity. Landon accepted it like a vow, because even a single month was more than he deserved. Days turned into routines. Landon carried boxes up the apartment stairs, tools in hand. Together, they assembled the crib, the wooden pieces fitting into place like fragile hope. Selina stood nearby, guiding, careful not to strain. He painted trim along the nursery walls. She folded tiny clothes into drawers. Sometimes they laughed softly at crooked screws or spilled paint. Sometimes they worked in silence, the weight of the past pressing down. At the store, they picked out blankets. Selina touched the soft fabric to her cheek, eyes bright for a moment. Landon watched quietly, storing the image in his heart. Each task was small. A lamp plugged in, a chair moved closer to the crib, a mobile hung above, but each step felt like building a bridge back from the ruins. Selina's guard did not drop fully, but her voice softened. Her eyes lingered longer. For Landon, it was enough. Preparing for the child was also preparing for something more. A chance. A beginning. It began early one morning. Selina gripped the kitchen counter, a sharp cry breaking from her lips. Landon rushed to her side. "What is it?" Her breath came fast. "Contractions." stronger, closer. He steadied her, hand gripping hers tight. Her knuckles turned white, but she did not let go. They timed each wave, each minute shrinking between them. The air grew heavy with urgency. At the hospital, the room filled with motion. Nurses checked monitors, the doctor called out numbers. Selena's face twisted with pain, sweat dampening her brow. Landon bent low, voice steady though his chest trembled. "Breathe. You're not alone. We're doing this together." Her body shook with effort, fear in her eyes. He pressed her hand firmly. "Selena, look at me. We can do this. You and me." Her gaze locked on his. For a moment the world narrowed to only them. Pain and hope, fear and strength. Another contraction hit, and she screamed, but his hand never left hers. For the first time since their marriage broke, they were together again. Not in memory, not in regret, but in the fight for new life. The hours blurred into pain, sweat, and trembling breaths. Then it came, sharp, raw, undeniable. A newborn's cry filled the delivery room. Selena sagged back against the bed, tears spilling down her face. The nurse laid a tiny bundle on her chest, warm and fragile, skin against skin. Selena's lips trembled. "Our daughter," she whispered. "Landon, this is our girl." The child's fists waved blindly, her voice piercing, alive. Landon's vision blurred as he reached out. "Can I?" His hands shook. The doctor nodded. "Cut the cord, Dad." The scissors clicked, and the cord was severed. Life was separate now, yet forever tied. The baby's cries grew stronger. Landon's tears fell freely. "She's perfect. She's ours." Selena kissed the damp crown of her child's head. Her eyes found his, tired, wary, but soft. For the first time in months, hope breathed between them. Later, in the quiet of the hospital room, the baby slept against Selena's chest. A nurse asked, "Do you have a name?" Selena brushed her daughter's cheek. Her voice was steady, yet full of emotion. "Amara. Her name is Amara. It means everlasting joy." The syllables lingered like a prayer. Landon sat beside them, watching the tiny chest rise and fall. "Amara," he repeated softly, tasting the word like a vow. "Yes, she is our joy, our hope." Selena looked at him, uncertain. But the way he said the name, reverent and gentle, planted something inside her heart. Amara stirred, a small cry escaping. Landon leaned close, placing his large hand beside Selena's smaller one. Together they soothed the child, whispering her name into the night, Amara, a name that meant joy, a name that meant future. The next day, Selena rested, pale but glowing, Amara curled against her. Landon stood by the bed, restless, words heavy in his chest. Finally, he sank to one knee. "Selena," he said, voice breaking, "I failed you once. I let fear steal everything we had. But please, give me the chance to do it right this time. Not for the past, for today, for tomorrow, for her." Her breath caught. She looked at him, at the trembling man who had once walked away, now kneeling with his heart open. "I don't know if I can forget," she whispered. "You don't have to forget," he said quickly. "Just let me stay. Let me fight for you, for Amara, every day. Let me earn it." Silence filled the room, broken only by the baby's soft sighs. Then, slowly, Selena nodded. "Yes," she whispered. His tears fell onto her hand as he kissed it, sealing the vow with trembling lips. 3 months later, sunlight spilled through the community center where they had first met. The walls were plain, the chairs simple, but the air was thick with meaning. Selena wore a modest dress, Amara nestled in her arms. Landon stood in a clean suit, eyes never leaving them. Before a small circle of family and friends, they spoke vows once more. Not grand promises, not flowery words, just truth. "I will not run," Landon said. "I will not let fear speak louder than love again." Selena's voice shook. "I will trust slowly. I will give space, but I will choose you as long as you choose us." They exchanged rings again, symbols worn once, lost and now renewed. Amara stirred, tiny hand peeking from her blanket. Guests smiled as Selina kissed her daughter's forehead. It wasn't a lavish wedding, it wasn't a fairy tale, but it was real, and it was theirs. They chose each other again, not because their past was flawless, but because their daughter deserved a future built on love. Landon and Selina had stood at the edge of despair, yet they chose to rebuild, one fragile step at a time, not for who they had been, but for who they still could become. Amara's first cry had changed everything. Her name, meaning everlasting joy, became a promise that new life could rise even from brokenness. She was proof that second chances are real, that love can return stronger after fear has been cast aside. Their story was not about perfection. It was about persistence, about daring to love again when the world said it was too late, about choosing hope when regret seemed easier. Do you believe in second chances? Have you ever lost someone, forgiven, or found the courage to begin again? If you have, your story may give someone else the strength they need tonight. Share it below. And if this journey touched your heart, subscribe to join us for more stories of love, redemption, and the quiet courage that carries families forward. Because sometimes, hope is the greatest vow of all.